Between this movie and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 2019 was definitely the year of the Pitt.
We have a job to do. Are you ready? I'm ready.
Hello there everybody, it's me the Canadian Movie Buff with a review of Ad Astra. Ad Astra takes place in a future. It doesn't quite establish whether it's far off into the future or in the near future, but there's enough visual cues that it's definitely meant to be futuristic, but at the same time, it's not so far off that there's all these crazy and wacky new inventions that you usually see in science fiction. In this future, a lot of money and resources has gone to space exploration, particularly our solar system. What's happening though is that there's been these mysterious power surges that no one really knows where they're coming from or why it's happening. But one thing is known. Their surges are increasing in intensity. Rory McBride, played by Brad Pitt, is given the task of venturing out to Neptune to find his thought-to-be-dead father and hopefully put a stop to the surges before they annihilate Earth. The subject of this movie is quite fascinating. As we explore more and more of our own solar system and such established colonies on different planets, we are able to go further and further into space. This version of space exploration is depicted as a rather expansionist industry. People can take commercialized flights to the moon, and Mars is established as a military base. On paper, this sounds fascinating. The ideas that could stem from this multi-planet journey. So many opportunities that could be explored here. There's an underlying problem that this movie has. It's very nice to look at. The visuals, everything, it's gorgeous. But in terms of story and characters and getting me investing in either, it doesn't really do that good a job. I really do want to praise the visuals of this movie because they are absolutely beautiful to look at. What I like about the movie is being ambiguous about how far into the future it is. It creates a bit of leeway. Like, it's not so far out that... I'm trying my best to explain it here, but you know how in the past there were like these weird and vivid imaginations about what the future would look like, what our colony on the moon would look like? This one takes that kind of prediction and dials it back a little. We have a colony on the moon, but even then we have trouble. Literal space pirates. And you can only go to Mars if it's for military or scientific reasons. It is a very realistic approach in that space exploration and going to these different planets takes a lot of time. I also love the way this movie uses cinematography and lighting. The entire Mars sequence is absolutely stunning to look at. It also adds to the emotions of the characters. When Roy gets to Mars, you feel the sort of sterilness and the darkness and the almost claustrophobia feel that's on this planet. It's clearly not a place that is kind to humans, and likely won't be for eons to come. When Rory reads a script to try and connect with his father, he casts it aside and just goes off the cuff, trying to appeal to emotion. He really feels as if he's on his own, especially at this point in the journey when he started off with other people, and is now the last person who sort of made it this far in the journey. I like Brad Pitt as an actor, but I thought his character was a bit flat throughout the movie. Even when he's at his most emotional, when he's meeting his dad again for the first time, the father he thought died. I think it would have been nice to see sort of a breakdown of that stoicism over the course of the movie. From the dedicated military man to the emotional son who's glad his father is still alive. I feel like that would have added a bit more to the emotional side of the story. Instead, it feels like Brad Pitt is just giving one of two emotions throughout the whole thing. Completely stoic or just slightly less stoic. As much as I enjoyed the Mars sequence, I thought it kind of dragged a bit. Don't get me wrong, the visuals are great to look at, and much like earlier on the moon, it has its own aesthetic to it. It truly feels like a grimy, top-secret military base that happens to be on another planet. But for the duration that it goes on, it feels like padding. There's also a sequence in the movie where they have to do a rescue detour, and it turns out that this monkey that they were experimenting on got loose and killed everyone. And as I watched that part, I thought, what did this really add to the story? It's like when you're playing a game and you decide to do a side quest. Some side quests give the impression that if you complete it, it adds to the story. It enriches the experience. That sequence was like a side quest that you thought was going to add something, but just became pointless. Now the story in itself, it was decent. I think this would have made a pretty good novel, but between the pacing and the way the movie uses narration, it really drags the movie down. Ad Astra is a completely original movie with breathtaking visuals, and probably has one of the more accurate depictions of space exploration in the future. I wouldn't be surprised if future generations look back on this movie and go, oh yeah, they got that right, and that right. Kind of like in the same way we look at technologies from sci-fi movies now and say, oh, we have that. Communicating through screens. That's Zoom or Skype. But if we're looking at the story and the characters, it just misses the mark. It has its moments, but it feels like one of those movies that, it was made for the critic's delight, is what I'm trying to say. I would say it's a critic's delight. A movie where it's not so much the story and the characters, but rather the themes and intellectualism of it. This movie grabs you in right away at the start, but once you get off Earth, it loses some of its gravitational pull. And that pull, that desire to see what happens next, weakens the further we go into the solar system. It may be meant to be seen on a huge screen, but it's probably best to watch on a flat screen on Netflix. Alright, that's my review of Ad Astra. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below, subscribe and hit the bell icon if you're new here. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, and as always, this is the Canadian Movie Buff saying I hope you had a fantastic weekend at the movies. See ya!